The twin suns of the border planet Tarnus burned low in the sky, casting long shadows across the alien marketplace. It was a place of noise, dust, and the smell of burnt metal. Traders shouted, engines groaned, and broken things were sold as treasures. Cade, a human trader from Earth, walked carefully through the crowd. He wasn't looking for trouble, just spare parts for his rusted freighter. The ship had barely survived the last storm, and he needed a stabilizer coil fast. This place reeked of secrets. Then he heard it. A soft voice, barely louder than a whisper, cut through the noise like a knife through silence. "Please, take me. I'll serve you forever." Cade stopped. He turned toward the sound and found himself facing a row of iron cages half hidden behind a ripped tarpaulin. Inside one of them, crouched low on the dirty metal floor, was a girl. But not just any girl. She had pale blue skin that shimmered like starlight under the dust. Her silver hair was tangled and dull, but still beautiful. Her arms were bruised, her wrists chained, and her clothes were little more than rags. Yet despite the filth and misery, her posture, her eyes, and even the shape of the jewel on her forehead screamed of royalty, a Zelari, and not just any Zelari, a princess. Cade's breath caught. He looked around. No one else seemed to care. The crowd moved on, ignoring her like garbage on the side of the road. He stepped closer. "What did you say?" She raised her head slowly. Her eyes met his bright violet and full of desperation. "You heard me," she said, voice shaking. "You're human. That means you're neutral. You have no part in our war. Take me, please, before they sell me to the mines." "Ack!" Cade frowned. "I don't take slaves." "I'm not asking you to take a slave," she whispered. "I'm asking you to save a dying girl." A tall, lizard-faced slaver stepped out from the shadows. His scales were cracked, and his eyes glowed red from cyber implants. "Interested, human?" he rasped. "Special price. Rare blood. Royal flesh." Cade shook his head. "She's not a thing," the slaver laughed. "She's not even a person anymore. Her own family abandoned her, stripped of her title. Now, she's just waiting to die. But to you, she can be anything. A pet, a helper, a companion, or a curse." Cade narrowed his eyes. "What curse?" The slaver leaned in close. "Every male who's touched her," he whispered, "has vanished. Some say it's her blood. Others say the Empire hunts them down, but none return." Cade looked back at the girl. Her shoulders trembled. Her lips were cracked. But she didn't cry. Instead, she spoke. "They can say what they want, but I'm still a daughter of Zelari. I have no crown, no power, but I will serve you with honor. Just get me out of here." Cade felt the weight of the moment press down on him. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't rich. Didn't need problems. But something in her eyes, something brave behind the fear, held him still. "How much?" he asked. The slaver smiled. 10. Minutes later, Cade walked through the marketplace with the girl following behind, wrapped in a clean blanket from his ship. Her wrists were still chained, but loosely. She didn't speak. They reached his freighter, a beaten-up hauler-class model covered in patchwork metal and earth stickers. He opened the ramp. Before stepping in, she stopped and knelt. Cade turned. Sharply, "What are you doing?" She lowered her head. "You paid the price. My body, my life, and my soul belong to you now." "No," Cade said quickly. "That's not how it works." "But I must," she said softly. "It's Zelari law. You saved me. You own me now." "I don't want to own you," Cade replied, uncomfortable. "Then let me pretend you do," she said, looking up at him. "At least until I'm strong again. Until I can repay you." Cade sighed. He reached down and gently lifted her up by the arm. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then whispered Solari. "All right, Solari. You're not a slave here. You're just a guest. Understand?" She gave a tiny nod, her eyes still unsure, as the ship door closed behind them. Cade didn't notice the tiny red light blinking on a bounty beacon, activated by the slaver after their deal. He also didn't notice the soft hum from Solari's glowing forehead crystal. But someone somewhere, had just felt it awaken, and that someone was already on the way. The ship's engine groaned as it lifted from the scorched surface of Tarnus. Inside, silence filled the cockpit. Cade sat in the pilot's chair, hands steady on the worn controls. But his eyes kept flicking to the reflection in the glass. She was still kneeling in the hallway behind him, wrapped in a blanket. Her silver hair now brushed and falling gently over her shoulders. Solari didn't move, not even when the ship broke orbit, not even when the gravity field shifted. She simply knelt perfectly still, perfectly silent. Cade finally spoke, not turning. "You don't have to do that. I told you no one owns anyone on this ship." Her voice came after a pause. "I know, but I'm not sure I remember how to stand." Cade blinked. That hit harder than any insult ever had. He stood up and walked back toward her. She didn't flinch, but her eyes followed his boots as he approached. He knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder, gently. "Then we'll start over. From the beginning, you stand when you want to, speak when you want, eat when you want. Deal." She looked at his hand, then slowly lifted her eyes to his. "You really are human," she whispered, as if it were the rarest thing in the universe. Cade helped her to her feet, but she swayed. She hadn't eaten much. Her legs, though strong in build, had been bruised from shackles and days without motion. He caught her before she fell and gently guided her toward the sleeping quarters. "Pick any room, except the one with the leaking vent." "I keep telling myself I'll fix it, but I'll take the one closest to yours," she interrupted. He stopped walking, not because of what she said, but how she said it confidently, as if she was testing how far she could stretch this new freedom. He gave a small nod. "All right." Once inside, she sat on the bed slowly, her hand running over the rough blanket as though it were silk. She looked up. "Do you have water?" Cade smiled, went to the galley, and returned with a cup. She drank it in silence. Halfway through, she paused. "I'm not used to asking." He sat across from her. "And I'm not used to being bowed to. Guess we're both adjusting." Solari stared at the cup, then at him. "Why did you take me?" The question wasn't accusing, it was quiet, scared and curious. Cade sighed. "Because no one else did." "That's not a reason." "Maybe not," he agreed, "but it's the truth." She looked at him a long time, then asked, "Do you know who I am?" Nodded. "Solari, royal, exiled. Rumors say cursed." Her lips tightened. "Then why didn't you run when you heard that last part?" "Because I don't believe in curses. I believe in people." Mouth opened slightly as if to argue, but instead she smiled. It was small, almost broken, but real. Later that night, while the ship drifted quietly through the black void, Cade walked into the engine room to check on power levels. That's when he noticed something strange. The internal sensors had recorded a pulse of energia spike that happened just minutes after Solari boarded. It wasn't from his ship. It wasn't from any known tech on board. It was alien. Solari, his brow furrowed. The energy signature was faint, but familiar. He had seen something like it years ago in old Terran reports during the first Solari skirmishes. That kind of pulse only came from one source. A living royal beacon. A signal to the Zelari Empire. He tapped the screen again. The pulse had lasted only 3 seconds. It was likely missed by most nearby systems, but if the Empire had scouts anywhere in range, they would have felt it. Cade returned to the hallway and stood outside her door. It was closed, but he could hear faint breathing. He didn't knock, instead. He whispered, "What did you just bring onto my ship, Solari?" Back inside, the girl sat on the floor, eyes closed, her hands cupped over the glowing mark on her forehead. The room was dark, but the light from the gem pulsed faintly. Syncing with her breath, she whispered in her own language Solari words, spoken like a chant. "I found him. I found the one who didn't look away." It's far above them, deep in the quiet of space. Something massive stirred. A dark vessel cloaked in shadow turned its sensors toward their ship. The Empire was watching, and they were coming. Asterisk. Cade awoke to a quiet humming sound. It wasn't the engine. He knew every noise his ship made, even the broken ones. This one was different. alive. He stepped into the hallway, barefoot, shirt half-buttoned. The hum was coming from Solari's room. The door was open. He stopped. Solari stood in front of the mirror, her back facing him. Her blanket had fallen. She was dressed in one of his old shirts, oversized, sleeves rolled. Her long silver hair spilled over her shoulders like a river of light. But what made him stop wasn't that. It was the strange glow on her arm. Right below her shoulder, etched like fire beneath skin, was a glowing symbol pulsing gently. It wasn't ink. It wasn't a tattoo. It was alive, moving, ancient. And in the center of that symbol was a single word. His name. "Cade," she said softly, not even looking at him. "You saw it." He stepped closer, voice low. "What is that?" "A bond mark," she replied. "A royal imprint. It's how my people record a life debt. Life debt." She turned slowly. Her eyes met his, calm and clear. "It means I am bound to you now, completely. Not just by choice, but by Zalari, law, and blood." Cade frowned. "I didn't ask for this." "I know. That's why it's real," she whispered. "The bond only appears when the act of saving is selfless. It cannot be forced or faked." Cade looked back at the mark, glowing on her pale skin. "So, what happens now?" She took a breath. "Now, I carry your name. Every scanner in the galaxy will read that I belong to a human. To you. And what does that mean for me?" Solari walked forward, each step slow. "It means others will come for me. For us. There are people who would rather kill me than see me marked by a human." She paused in front of him. "And there are those who will try to take me from you because the mark makes you a threat, a symbol, a shame." Cade didn't speak for a long time, then finally, "Can you remove it?" "No." Stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me before it appeared?" She looked down. "I didn't know it would happen. I didn't think I was capable of forming one. I thought that part of me was dead." Cade turned and walked toward the galley, silent. "Blow," she followed. The kettle hissed. He poured 2 mugs of coffee, hers with more water to make it gentle. He placed it in front of her. She cupped it with both hands. "Thank you." They sat in silence, until he asked, "So, you're stuck with me?" She smiled faintly. "I could do worse." Cade laughed once, dry and low. Then he looked at her seriously. "You realize what this means, right? I can't go back to Earth now. If they see your mark, I'll be arrested for slavery, or worse." "I can hide it," she offered quickly. "I can cover it. I won't let you get hurt for saving me." "That's not the point," he said, voice rising. "You tied your name to mine in front of the whole galaxy without asking me." She flinched but didn't look away. "I'm sorry," she said, "but I had no control. I'm not asking you to claim me. I just wanted to survive." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, softer now, "You don't owe me anything, Solari. I didn't save you for a reward. I didn't want this." "I know," she said again, "but it's mine to carry." Just then, the ship's warning siren chirped. Cade stood, confused. "We're not near any systems." He ran to the control panel and tapped the console. An alert blinked red. Unidentified vessel approaching. No registry, no beacon. Silent runner. Solari appeared behind him, reading the screen. Her voice dropped. "That's a scout ship. Empire, maybe? Or bounty hunters?" Either way, they found the pulse. Cade turned to her. Pulse. The bond mark. When it formed, it sent out a trace. Just for a moment, but someone was listening. Cade cursed under his breath. "How fast are they moving?" "Fast enough," she said. "They'll be here in 30 minutes. He stared at her. "We can't fight them. We don't have to," she said. "Not yet." "What do you mean?" Solari turned and walked to the storage hatch. She pulled out a long, locked crate. Her fingers danced over a hidden panel. The crate opened. Inside was a weapon unlike any human had ever made. Sleek, black, glowing at the edge with the same light as her bond mark. Cade took a step back. That's a Zellery warblade. She nodded. A royal one? You were smuggling that? She lifted it, her posture changing. Shoulders back, head high, eyes deadly. I'm not a slave anymore, she said. And if they come for me? She turned the blade toward the door. Energy crackling. They'll learn what it means to challenge a bonded princess. Cade didn't say a word. He simply nodded and went to prepare the ship. Something told him this was just the beginning, and deep in his gut, he wasn't sure who was protecting who anymore. Asterisk, the ship drifted through deep space, its hull creaking gently as it moved past a dying star. Inside, shadows stretched across the metal floors. The atmosphere was calm. But it was the kind of calm that made Cade's instincts itch-like. Something was about to happen. He was lying in the crew quarters. One arm behind his head, eyes on the ceiling, sleep refusing to come. His mind kept spinning about the bond mark glowing on Solari's arm, about the scout ship that had passed just outside sensor range, but didn't stop, about the fact that he was now harboring what might be the most wanted royal exile in the galaxy. And then the door creaked. He turned his head sharply. She stood there, Solari, barefoot, silent, and glowing softly in the hallway light. She wore one of his old shirts again, the hem brushing her knees. Her long hair had dried from a sonic rinse, falling smooth and silver around her face. Cade sat up, cautious, but calm. All right, she nodded, but didn't speak right away. Her eyes scanned the room, small, plain, and barely lit by a dim corner lamp. I couldn't sleep, she said finally. Bad dreams? No dreams, She hesitated. I don't know where to lie down. I've never had a bed of my own before. I don't even know if I'm allowed to. Cade frowned. Ah! Of course you are. You're free here. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped lower, uncertain. On your world, someone like me has no place. Do they sleep on the floor? Beside the one who saved them, Cade stiffened slightly. It wasn't a flirt. It wasn't seduction. It was genuine confusion. She was trying to understand rules she'd never been taught. He stood up and walked toward her. You can sleep wherever you want, Salar. You don't need permission. This isn't a cage. She looked down. But my instincts tell me to ask. It's all I've ever known. He nodded. Then let's rewrite those instincts. Together. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she smiled fully. It wasn't sad or shy. It was real. Cade gestured to the spare bed near the back of the ship's crew wing. Come on, that one doesn't squeak as much. I think you'll like it. She followed him, steps light. When she sat down, she tested the softness with her palms, then curled up gently. Cade handed her a blanket, this one actually clean. Hugged it like it was gold. He stepped back, but her voice stopped him. Stay. He blinked. You mean in the room? Yes, she said quietly. I feel safe when you're nearby. Is that all right? Cade pulled a crate over, flipped it upside down, and sat beside the bed. I'm not going anywhere. She rested her head against the pillow and closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. For the first time since he met her, she looked at peace. Cade stared at her for a while. What? So many questions swirled in his mind. Who had hurt her? Why had her family abandoned her? What secrets did the bond mark truly hold? And why, when he looked at her, did it feel like something ancient was waking inside both of them? But just as sleep began to tease the edge of his thoughts in alarm, sounded soft, hidden, internal, he jumped up and ran to the control panel in the hall. A single red dot had appeared on the long-range scan. It wasn't the Empire. Not this time. It was a small ship, civilian, not armed.
Tracking beacon open.
But it was close. Too close. Cade narrowed his eyes. Then something stranger happened. The screen flickered. A hacked transmission forced its way into the ship's system. It was a message. 3 words, you took her. Cade stared at the words. His fingers hovered over the console, but before he could respond, Sailoree was suddenly beside him. She read the message. Her face didn't change, but her fists tightened. They found us, she said quietly. But that's not the Empire. That's someone else. Cade turned to her, who... She didn't answer at first, and slowly she said, "My betrothed." He blinked. "What?" "I was promised to someone before I was exiled. A high-ranking noble of a rival house. He hated humans. Hated me. But the union was political. He lost face when I vanished. If he finds me now..." She didn't need to finish. Cade looked at the screen again. The dot was approaching slowly, cautiously, not aggressive, not desperate, but hungry. "Do you want to talk to him?" Cade asked. "No," she said sharply. "He'll try to claim me. By force, he'll use the law. My own people might even support him if it means restoring order." "But you're bonded now," Cade said. "Doesn't that mean anything?" Solari met his eyes. "To some, yes. Your others. Only if you can defend it." Cade's jaw tightened. He turned and activated the outer shields. "Then we'll make sure it means something." She touched his shoulder. "You're not a warrior?" He looked back at her. "No," he said. "But I protect what's mine." For a moment, she stared. At him as wide, breath still. Then, with surprising gentleness, she took his hand and placed it over the glowing mark on her arm. "Then you should know." "Cade," she whispered, "you're not the only one who can fight." Behind them, the ship's lights dimmed as the foreign vessel requested permission to dock, and far above their heads, the stars seemed to hold their breath. Asterisk, the ship trembled as the docking clamp engaged. In the silence that followed, every sound seemed louder. Solari's soft breathing, the hum of the shields, the quiet thump of Cade's heart in his chest. Cade glanced at Solari. "Stay behind me." She nodded, though there was a fire in her eyes. She was tired of hiding. She pressed her palm to the warblade's hilt, hidden beneath her blanket. The inner airlock hissed open. A tall, sharp-featured alien stepped through, followed by two silent guards in dark uniforms. The visitor's skin shimmered blue and gold Solari, but with crueler eyes, colder than Solari's. He looked at Solari first, his gaze heavy with anger and pride. "So," the noble said, voice like broken glass, "this is what you have become, Solari, a human's pet." She stood straighter. "I belong to no one but myself. You have no claim." He laughed. "That mark says otherwise." Turned. "To Cade, human, you do not understand Zelari law. Release her to me, and I'll let you leave unharmed. Not keep her. And you become an enemy of all Zelari worlds." Cade did not move. He felt the weight of the galaxy pressing on his shoulders. But something deep inside refused to bow. Solari stepped beside him. "If you came to threaten, you waste your time. If you came for blood, then spill it and be done." The noble's eyes narrowed. "You think I came alone?" He snapped his fingers. The ship's systems flickered. The lights dimmed. Outside, a larger vessel, uncloaked, armed, bristling with weapons, soldiers in shimmering armor ready to board. The noble smiled cruelly. "You have one last chance, Earthman. Give me the girl." Cade stood his ground, but his voice was steady. "She's not a thing to give. She stays if she wants." The noble scoffed. "You would die for a slave." Cade looked at Solari. "She's not a slave. She's my crew. My friend." Solari's eyes widened, a tear almost escaping. In her entire life, no one had ever said that word, friend. The noble snarled and gestured to his guards. "Take her." In a flash, the guards rushed forward. Solari's instincts took over. She drew the warblade, its blue edge glowing like lightning. Cade grabbed a stun baton from the wall. The battle was fast and brutal. Solari fought like a shadow, her movements sharp, silent, full of grace and hidden fury. Cade defended the entrance, blocking the guards with everything he had. The noble shouted orders, but his men fell quickly, stunned or bleeding. One guard reached for Solari. She spun, using her chain as a weapon, tripping him before placing the blade at his throat. She did not kill, only disarmed, only defended. Cade watched, breathless. This was not a helpless girl. This was a survivor. The noble now alone drew. A hidden pistol and aimed at Cade. Enough. She is mine. Solari stepped between them. If you harm him, the bond will destroy you. I am no longer your pawn. He spat at her feet, his anger turning to desperation. You shame your blood. You shame us all. Solari looked him in the eye. A true leader does not rule by fear. You want to control me, but you can't even control yourself. The noble's pistol shook in his hand. He glanced at Cade, then at the warblade, and finally at the defeat in his own guards' faces. I could kill you both, he whispered. But you won't, Cade answered, voice calm, because you'd rather let the galaxy believe you lost. A princess to a human that admit you lost her to her own courage. The noble screamed, then hurled the pistol to the floor, leaving his wounded behind. His ship pulled away, vanishing into the darkness of space. Silence settled in the corridor. Solari breathed deeply, her shoulders shaking. The warblade slipped from her hand and clattered to the ground. She looked at Cade, tears mixing with relief and exhaustion. Cade knelt beside her. Are you all right? She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. He wanted to own me my whole life. You're the only one who let me choose. Cade smiled, gentle. Then choose for yourself now. What do you want to do? Solari thought for a moment. I want to be more than a survivor. I want to fight for something better. For myself? For others, like me. Cade put a hand on her shoulder. Then we start today. In the background, the injured guards moaned. Solari stood and helped them up, tending their wounds. She told Cade, no one is born a slave. Sometimes all we need is someone to believe. We can be more. That night, Cade sent a message to a secret network of freed slaves, offering them shelter. Solari watched him work, pride growing in her heart. For the first time in her life, she felt hope, but neither of them noticed the tiny, hidden sensor still stuck to the ship's hull blinking, quietly as it sent their location to someone. Far more dangerous than the noble ever was. In the darkness between the stars, a new threat awakened. And this time, it was coming for both of them. Cade's ship sped through the endless dark, leaving the noble's ambush far behind, but neither he nor Solari truly felt safe. The wounds of the fight still lingered, not just on their bodies, but deep inside. Cade's arm was bruised, and his ribs ached with every breath, but it was the look on Solari's face that worried him more. Even after tending to their attackers, she barely spoke. She sat in the corner of the mess hall, silent, turning the warblade in her hands. The cum panel crackled to life. Cade's heart raced as he heard an encrypted call, one he recognized from the secret network of freed slaves. A familiar voice spoke. Cade, you're not alone. Meet us at the hidden station near Nebula Gate. But hurry, the bounty on you both just doubled. He glanced at Solari, who looked up, her eyes tired but fierce. Did you hear that? He asked. She nodded. We need allies. I trust you. Cade set the course for the hidden station. As the stars turned outside, he looked at Solari, searching for words. After what happened, you can still trust me. She watched him for a long moment. You're the only one who ever gave me a choice, she said. You're the only one who saw me as more than a tool or a threat. If I'm afraid now, it's not of you, it's of who I have to be to survive. He wanted to say something comforting, but the alarm blared. Proximity warning. 2 ships, closing fast. Solari was already on her feet. She gripped the warblade. Cade sprinted to the controls, checking the sensors. Pirates, he breathed. They want the bounty. They braced for impact, but Solari spoke up, calm and certain. No, they want me, but they don't know what I can do. The first pirate ship fired, but Cade's quick maneuvers dodged the blast. The second latched onto their hull with magnetic claws. The ship shuddered. In the corridor, Cade handed Solari an old plasma pistol. She shook her head and pressed the warblade into his hands. My own way. Trust the bond. She stepped into the corridor as pirates began to force their way in, faces masked, weapons drawn. Solari raised her hands, the bond mark on her arm shining blue-white. The pirates hesitated. They'd never seen a slave stand tall and meet them. Eye to eye. She spoke, her voice ringing out. Leave now, and you'll live. Stay, and you'll learn what happens when you corner a queen." They laughed, thinking she was bluffing. Cade saw her eyes flash, and suddenly the warblade in his grip pulsed with the same blue light. He realized, stunned, that the bond connected them both. It gave him strength, speed, and clarity. Sailari moved with terrifying speed, unarmed but untouchable. She ducked a swing, flipped a pirate over her back, and snatched his weapon. In seconds, 3 attackers lay groaning on the floor. Cade blocked the entrance, disabling 2 more with the warblades. Flatside, refusing to kill. More pirates crowded in. Sailari chanted words in Zalari language, the mark on her skin glowing brighter. The lights flickered, and the pirates' weapons jammed, metal freezing in their hands. Her power linked to her will paralyze every hostile in the corridor. Last pirate dropped his blaster and ran, screaming. Silence fell. Cade looked around in awe. He'd never seen anyone fight like that. Breathing hard, Sailari wiped sweat from her brow and looked at him. "The bond is stronger than I thought. When you believe in me, I can do things I never could alone." Cade smiled, dizzy from adrenaline. "I believe in you, Sailari, always." But before they could catch their breath, a new message flashed on the com panel. This one was coded in Old Zellery meant, only for royals. Celery read the words aloud, her voice trembling for the first time. "Your mother's pact with Earth is broken. Turn now, or watch your only chance for peace die with your human." Cade stared at her, confused. "What does that mean?" She looked pale, haunted. "Long ago, my mother promised a human ally if ever our house fell. A child would seek help from Earth, and a human would protect her. That pact was supposed to be secret. But now they know. Now they'll hunt us both. Not for the bounty, but to erase the last hope for peace between our worlds." Cade's heart pounded. "Then we run." Sailari shook her head. "We fight. Together. That's what the bond is for." He took her hand, feeling the power there. For the first time, he realized he wasn't rescuing her anymore. They were. Saving each other, he set course for the hidden rebel stronghold, knowing it was their only chance. The ship leapt to hyperspace, but even the stars felt close and dangerous. Neither of them knew what would greet them at the end of the jump. But now, side by side, Sailari and Cade were more than slave and master, more than protector and protected. They were partners. And the galaxy was about to learn what hope-real, desperate, burning hope looked like. When carried by 2 people who refused to give up on each other. Asterisk. The hidden rebel station hovered in the shadow of a blue nebula, surrounded by old ships and secret codes. Cade's battered freighter slipped through the asteroid field, guided by voices on a scrambled channel. On the bridge, Sailari stood beside him, her royal mark hidden beneath a sleeve, but her eyes clear and strong. They docked, the ramp lowering with a groan. Armed rebels watched them carefully as they stepped onto the metal deck, some human, some alien, many wearing scars of old battles. Cade lifted his hands in peace, but all eyes drifted to Sailari, sensing her power and the bond between them. The rebel leader, a woman with iron hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "You bring trouble with you, Cade." He nodded. "We bring hope too." The leader looked at Sailari. "And who are you to offer hope?" Sailari raised her chin, her voice steady. "I was born a princess. I became a slave. Now I fight for those who have no name." There was a murmur in the crowd. Some recognized her. Others doubted. But the leader only nodded once. "Then fight with us. The Empire's fleet is moving. They tracked your ship. They'll be here soon." Cade looked at Sailari's chest. "Tight, we can still run." She shook her head, eyes fierce. "No, if we run now, they'll chase us forever. If we stand, maybe others will see and remember how to fight." Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Outside, warships appeared black and gold, the colors of the old Zellari Empire bristling with weapons. Shuttles launched, soldiers in gleaming. Armor landing on the decks. The rebel base shook with the first blast. Metal screamed. Fighters scrambled, but the enemy was too strong. Sailari moved to the cum station. broadcasting her face to every screen on the station, every soldier's helmet. She spoke in Zelari and then in Earth's tongue, her voice ringing out over the chaos. This is Selari, daughter of the house you destroyed. You hunt me because you fear the bond I carry. But I am not your slave. I am not your shame. I am your reckoning. And to every person who ever knelt with chains, stand out. Stand now. Fight with me or fight for yourself, but never bow again. Cade watched the screens light up. Palians, humans, hybrids, people all over the station hearing her words. Some had never fought before, but they rose up now, side by side with old warriors. The battle raged. Cade led the defense on the docking ring, using the royal warblade Celery had given him. The blade glowed with the mark of their bond, making him faster, braver. He saw Selari in the thick of the fighting, her blue hair flying, her hands glowing as she shielded the wounded, her eyes never looking away from danger. The Empire's soldiers tried to reach her, but she moved through the battle like a shadow. Impossible to capture, impossible to ignore. At the height of the battle, the old noble appeared, her former betrothed, armored and armed, pushing through the defenders. He faced Selari, voice cold. Come with me, end this. Selari stood tall. I end it now. She fought not with the blade, but with the power of her voice, her bond, her courage. The crowd watched as she stepped forward, letting him strike end. With every blow, she refused to fall. The royal mark flared, and the noble's weapon shattered in his hand. He fell to his knees, broken not by pain, but by the shame of defeat. Around them, the fighting slowed. The Empire's soldiers began to drop their weapons one by one. They saw what real power was: mercy, courage, and hope. The rebel leader gave the order. Stand down, we've won. Cade ran to Selari, catching her as she stumbled, exhausted, but unhurt. The station was silent except for the hum of the engines and the breathing of survivors. Selari looked at him, her face shining with tears. It's over, Cade. For the first time, it's really over. He smiled, holding her close. You did it. You ended it. Oh, she whispered. We did. In the days that followed, news spread across the galaxy. The Zelari Empire could not hide its shame. The last royal had stood beside a human, not as a slave, not as a prize, but as an equal. The rebellion swelled, old chains broken, old wounds healing. On the station's balcony, Selari stood before Crodelians, humans, and those who had once served as slaves. She raised her warblade high and declared, no one here belongs. To another, today I abolish all chains. If I ever wear a crown again, it will be beside those who fought for freedom, not as a queen, but as your friend. As the cheers echoed through the stars, Cade watched her pride and love in his eyes. He knew their journey was only beginning, but together, free, unafraid, and unstoppable, they could change the galaxy. And so, the desperate princess became a symbol of hope. The human who freed her became her partner, not her master. And the story of Selari and Cade spread from star to star, not as a tale of slaves and rulers, but of two souls who chose each other and taught the universe the true meaning of freedom. The end. Asterisk.